Hey everyone, it's Nella here. Going to talk about something that's actually been kind of rolling through my head past month or so. Bit over a month actually. And that's an idea about one of the characters that I wrote who's connected to Flair's story, but who also had his own story. And I'm kind of trying to figure out whether I want him as a doll or whether I just want to incorporate him as his own character separate from Flair or something like that. The character's name is Fusio DuBois. He's called Fu for short. And he was actually originally written to be a doll. He was supposed to be, he and this other doll, he and Acantha are Flair's best friends from back home. And Acantha was supposed to be a tender BA, and Fu was supposed to be a 2. That's Dream of Doll. Because I don't know if they still have it. I think they still have it. If you buy like a BA and a 2 of either tender or however you mix it up, if you get them together, like, it's a cheaper price. So my idea was always that those would be, that after I got Flair, those would be the next 2 I'd get. And then things happened and that didn't end up working out. And actually, I've decided, I think probably like in 2008, that I probably wasn't going to get Acantha. Just because it didn't make sense for her to end up at the Curiosity Shop. Whereas for Fu, it does actually make sense for him to end up at the Curiosity Shop at some point. So I kind of went trying to figure out what sculpt would work for him. When Boy, so Kid Delph Boy first came out, I was thinking maybe that. And then I was also thinking Kid Delph Mill. I don't know. I'm still actually leaning towards a Kid Delph Boy for him. But a bit about his character. He's quite different from my other characters. He was kind of the sad, shy boy that hung out with Flair and Acantha, who were both more outgoing and boisterous and generally crazier than him. And the reason why I'm actually been considering maybe getting him again in the future, or actually getting him in the future, I shouldn't say again because I never got him as a doll. I only thought about getting him and made him a little cup. Yeah, this is his one. His story is pretty sad. I think he was a human character for, at maybe 6 months, and then I decided to bring magic into his story, but I wasn't sure how. The original idea was that he's kind of like an angel, sort of. Which is actually still kind of what happened. This is what world he's from. Or really, not his physical form, but his spirit. Yeah, this is going to get pretty confusing because there's going to be a lot of spirits and spirits entering bodies and stuff like that. So the world he's from, there's a group of people that are kind of like angelic beings. Sort of. And they have, I think I called it 2 spirits in them. So each singular person has 2 spirits. And the 2 spirits is kind of, one's a male spirit and the other's the female spirit. So the singular being that has these 2 spirits is at the same time both male and female, and yet not male or female. But they were like, it's not a whole society, like it's just a smaller group. They were like this. And what happened is the child who went on to become Fu, so there's this child, and the child has been left with his essentially babysitter slash nurse slash nanny, I don't know, something like that, who isn't one of these beings. Her name is Lupe, and I'm not sure what's wrong with her. She was kind of a confusing character. She kind of had these kind of like epileptic fits, kind of like my mini seizures, and she also she spoke really strangely. She spoke a lot in like metaphors, but for whatever reason she was the one who was looking after the child that day, and they went to this garden that they often went to, and they went deeper into the garden than they ever had before, and they didn't realize that they'd actually gone from where the part of the garden they're allowed into, they actually went to the part where you're not supposed to go. And they got found there, and as Lupe and the child were running, essentially this hole slash crack in the ground just formed, and the child fell through it, and the child fell through. With this crack or hole, whatever it was, that appeared in the ground, it's actually a portal to another world. The problem is that world doesn't, like, the mechanics of that world don't allow for these beings, for two spirits. So what happened was that as the child fell into this other world, essentially their body died and their two spirits were ripped apart, and one went zooming off and the other one zooming off, and one of the ones that went zooming off went into a newborn child that was struggling for breath, and that was Fu. And thinking about Fu essentially having only one part of a two-spirit, essentially being only one part of a spirit, it means that negative energy, and like darkness, that sort of stuff, he's actually really susceptible to that, because he isn't in himself a complete unit. And what actually happens is that this doesn't really affect him, and no one realizes that that something's wrong with Fu. No one realized that until Fleur leaves to the curiosity shop, which is when she's just been told she's a Nixie. So Fleur goes off to the curiosity shop, and suddenly Fu doesn't have his safety net, because Fleur's aura, which is also one of her powers that she still has as a human, I think I mentioned this before, she has a calming, reassuring, protective aura. So what actually had happened was that because Fleur and Fu were friends, Fleur's protective aura was actually shielding Fu from all these negative things that could be affecting him. And when she leaves, suddenly he doesn't have that safety net, he doesn't have that protective force, and he really starts suffering for it. He gets very ill, he gets very lethargic, he doesn't want to see anybody, he doesn't want to talk to anybody, he just locks himself in his room. And he does end up at the curiosity shop. At one point he did, and while at the curiosity shop, essentially he got help to find the other part of his spirit. which actually got kind of sad, because when he met the girl who had the other part of his spirit, like, they felt like super close, and it was like, yes, you know, like, this is right. And they realized that because of how long the spirits had been separated, they couldn't become one again. So, like, he can never be whole. Neither of them can. Neither him nor the girl can ever be whole. Just kind of sad. I don't know, but I kind of wish I had him, just because he was like my sad little boy that, like, whenever I wrote him or thought about him, I just always wanted to, like, just like pick him up and hug him and tell them it was going to be alright. I don't know. And as you can probably guess by the length of this video, I actually did really like some of the ideas I came up with for his background. So I'm kind of tossing around the idea of maybe getting him, but keeping him separate from Flair, like, maybe not having them as, like, best friends, maybe just as, like, friends. I don't know. I'll keep thinking about it. Bye, everyone.